Good morning and welcome to today's event. We're delighted to have everybody joining us for the celebration of our first year as Cellnex in Ireland. Obviously, we would have preferred to have this event in person, and we will look forward to 2021, where perhaps we will have the opportunity to meet everybody face to face, including having our colleagues in Spain joining us here in Ireland, and hopefully we can have that opportunity to have a pint of Guinness or something to eat and maybe some more happier things to do. So look, thanks again for joining us. We're delighted to have the opportunity to celebrate this this moment in terms of 1 year at Cellnex. I'm also delighted to say that at the end of the session today, we will announce a donation that we're making to two of Irish well-known charities, the Cancer Fund for Children and Bernardo's, two very well known charities in Ireland, and the staff at Cellnex Ireland have decided to make these two charities the beneficiaries of this event, and we have a long-time association, in fact, with the Cancer Fund for Children, which we've supported over the past few years. So again, I'm delighted that we have the opportunity to do that, and your participation today has a direct impact on the amount of money that will be presented. Today I'm going to just go back a little bit and talk about the background to this company. This company itself, or the business itself, has been, I suppose, in operation since around the late 1960s, with the introduction of TV and FM radio, two-way radio solutions. The State Forestry Company, who owns 7% of the land mass in Ireland, was a natural source to go in order to find appropriate locations to deploy the necessary infrastructure to support these deployments back in the 1960s and 1970s. And then with the explosion of mobile network deployments in the late 90s, the demand for this type of business grew even more. And over the period of 50, 60 years, this business developed into a fully fledged telecommunications infrastructure business, which eventually was sold by the Forestry Company in 2015. And that's when our company was established. So we focused over the last 5 years on trying to deliver new infrastructure, managing the infrastructure that we acquired from the State Forestry Company. That has led to the doubling of the number of sites under our management. And then in 2019, the company was acquired by Cellnex. So if I look back over the last 12 months, some of the key things that have developed, we finished obviously our integration into the Cellnex group. Most importantly, we maintained the delivery of the new infrastructure that we were delivering for our customers. And on top of that, we've introduced new services such as fibre to the towers. We recently announced a partnership with Everynet, where we're rolling out in partnership with them an IoT network across Ireland. Some of these things that we probably wouldn't have contemplated over 12 months ago. And we also are looking forward, where we're looking at new and exciting opportunities that are being rolled out across Europe within the Cellnex organization. I also want to take the opportunity before we start to recognize the huge efforts of our staff, of our supply chain, and of the support we've had from our customers over the past 6 to 9 months during the Covid-19 situation. The fact that we kept our operations intact has been a testament to all of those involved. A huge huge focus on the delivery of what we've been doing over the past while, and I think the the recognition that the positive impact that we've had in delivering those new services in areas where service had been otherwise non-existent. And we've heard stories from various communities during the lockdown period of COVID that had the infrastructure not been there, that simply people wouldn't have been able to get connected. In fact, one of the sites that we delivered in the last 2 years, I believe, in my own county in Laois, it carried the most traffic for one of the operators during the lockdown period in April and March. So it's great to hear these stories. We're constantly working with all of the stakeholders involved in terms of identifying the requirements that are out there. In fact, we're working with some communities today in order to help them to get the infrastructure delivered in order for them to be connected as well. So today we're going to take the opportunity to hear about the story of Cellnex over the last 5 years. We're also going to hear about the new infrastructures emerging. We're going to look at the Cellnex diversification, and most importantly, we're going to hear about the plans we have in Ireland. So now over to Barcelona.
Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you very much. It's great to connect with the beautiful land of Ireland, a beautiful land, magic land, in a place with a Celtic culture, with the cliffs of Moher. Just comes to my mind beautiful places in Dublin, being able to check the Book of Kells, being in Trinity College, walking around Grafton and saying hello to Molly Malone, while probably we have a Guinness. And yes, as you were saying, it's a privilege to have with me a very inspiring person. You know him, Alex Mestre, Deputy CEO at Cellnex. Thank you very much for being here. It's a great pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Colin, and all the team in Ireland.
Yeah, I know that you were kind of, you would love to be in Ireland.
Absolutely, yes.
But we know that the actual climate doesn't make it that easy, as it was some months ago. But you were saying, I don't know what I'm doing in Barcelona. I want to be there with them.
Thanks God we have companies like Cellnex that help us to be remotely connected.
Yeah, that's true. We've got a great connectivity. We can tell you that we can even smell the smell of the Irish tea from here.
Absolutely. I was surprised. What was that?
Yeah. So yeah, you wanted to be in Ireland. It was not possible this time, but we are connected. And we were talking before that this whole story started 5 years ago. Cellnex, in a way, was born 5 years ago. And you started envisioning something and trying to focus your vision in something like this.
Once we have outlets, computer outlets in every home, each of them hooked up to enormous libraries where anyone can ask any question and be given answers, be given reference material, be something you're interested in knowing. From an early age, however silly it might seem to someone else, that's what you're interested in. And you ask, and you can find out, and you can follow it up. And you can do it in your own home, at your own speed, in your own direction, in your own time. Then everyone will enjoy learning.
By thinking about the future, we build the present. We present Cellnex Telecom, a company designed to lead the smart management of infrastructures, services, and telecommunication networks. With more than 15,000 communication nodes, through which signals pass for TV and radio, mobile telephone operators, security and emergency networks, connected devices and smart city applications, serving more than 100 million people in Europe. A company that guarantees to connect people wherever they are, thanks to the reliability, neutrality, and confidence in its services. Asimov dreamed about a connected society. We make it possible. Abertis Telecom is now Cellnex Telecom. We are driving telecom connectivity.
So you make it possible. What do you take 5 years later, 5 years after? I mean, have you been able to achieve all those goals and challenges that you draw in 2015?
I would say yes, and we've been even beyond that what was expected, and this is what the market recognized, the clients have recognized, and we're very proud of it. And this is thanks to all the teams like the one we have in Ireland, and it is actually 5 years. It looks like it were 10 years.
Yeah.
But maybe the number 5, being 5 years since the inception of Cellnex, is our figure, no? Because since then we've made the company 5 times bigger. We have 5 times the number of sites we had in 2015, May 2015, which was May 7th, I think it was. So yes, absolutely. I think we went probably beyond the expectations that we were thinking, that we were aiming at. And this is thanks to many elements. One, which is of utmost importance, is the effort of the people working in Cellnex. That's number one. Second is that we've reached a moment where no one else like Cellnex was there in Europe with exactly the same value proposition, and the investors realized that, and they said, well, this is the company with whom we want to bet, with whom we want to endorse, with whom we want to put money on it, no? And thanks to that, we've been able to grow up to this 5 times size that we are today.
5 times, and from 1 country to 8 countries.
Yes.
And now saying hello to Ireland.
Yes.
But why Ireland? I mean, what can you do for Ireland? How can you grow together? Why are you so relevant for a country like Ireland?
Ireland has several aspects which are interesting. First of all, when you look at the towerco landscape, there is, and there are companies like the one that Colin created, which were independent tower companies with a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, which is exactly what made, let's say, this transition from Abertis Telecom to Cellnex. Tobias Martinez, our CEO, is an entrepreneur by nature. And all this conglomerate of small companies becoming towercos, it made us believe that it was a good place where to consolidate those companies. Secondly, Ireland has the spirit from the people there on also being innovative in many aspects. And what we are learning from Colin are many things that we are actually porting to the rest of the 7 countries that we are having today, like the street poles, like many other elements that IT tools that the company has been creating until now. No? And I would say third, it is its size. Its size allows for having a complete ecosystem where to test new elements and new innovative technologies in a full scale, but in a small perimeter, which makes it affordable in terms of investment, for instance.
Yeah, and it's clear that Irish people is really amazing and enriching people, and they are. I would say they are, in a mindset way, they're very entrepreneurs also, like Turi, as you were mentioning. There's people who always want to create new things. But you created many more, because as you were saying at the beginning, everything started like small. You never thought that this would be, you probably dreamed on, but you never thought it would be so fast and so brilliant. But you started with a specific goals and challenges, but the end of all, you became a bit like Bauman would say, very liquid, very adaptable. And now you are focusing on tons of things. I mean, you've got in front of you the fiber, but also DAS, smart cells, the edge computing now with 5G. You've been growing and learning to open your focus in an amazing way. How do you do that?
Well, I think the leitmotif that our team, the Asimov, was mentioning about this driving telecom connectivity, I think it's perfectly valid. So we believe that when there is need for connectivity, when there is need for mutualizing a telecom asset, this is when it makes sense for Cellnex to have a presence. Because what we are helping is our partners to generate efficiencies by mutualizing the assets. Yes, there is a core asset, which is the mobile network tower. And this is where our investors are very much looking after, guys, be focused on that, be focused in Europe, and develop around that what it makes sense to develop with similar business cases, but always with the same aim on helping our partners to connect their clients. Because
yeah, but in a way, as you were saying, you started as a tower co.
Yes.
But you're now more an Infraco in a way. And I don't know how you really can lead a company in such a changing era. I mean, it's not easy to kind of imagine what's coming next. Of course, now with the pandemic, even harder. But how have you done that?
Well, it's just having the radar on and keep scouting and listening.
Yeah.
Very much listening our partners, our clients, the suppliers as well, and trying to envisage what could be needed in 2-3 years term. And this is how we intend to be, let's say, helpful into the ecosystem and in the value chain.
Yeah, it sounds pretty much like when you hear successful stories, it's everything has a lot to do with listening, user-centric, understanding, being able to read. And you guys did something amazing, which I think it's really key. And we talked many times with people in your team. But there are two concepts that come to my mind when I think on Cellnex that I think are really valuable, like silver bullets. One is that you are an enabler. How do you become that enabler? It's amazing to become an enabler in life. I mean, I make things possible.
Well, I think we mentioned first listen, not to one, to several. Try to put in common all the different needs and put a value proposition which is workable for all of them and enriching. And this is, I think, the main aspect on bringing value.
Yeah, that's also in the technological side. You do that also in the technological
we
side.
intend to.
Yeah, you do it for some telcos, for MNOs, for everyone. I mean, you try to you're like the friend who brings them all together all the time, and you connect them all the time. And the second one I was going to say, instead of having everyone its own solution, you became the ones who bring the neutral host. And that's also an interesting concept I like.
That's important, because when we are doing this listening process, you are listening many competitors among themselves. So what is really important is to find out what really drives their interest and being perceived, but not only perceived, but actually behave as a real neutral element on which they can rely and they can be confident that we will never take a position or take driving seat. And there are clearly red lines on our value proposition that we won't cross, no? Which is start entering into retail business, start entering into spectrum auctions, all those elements which are key differentiating factors for our clients and partners, we will never enter. And it's very important to convey the message and remember it from time to time.
I was thinking when a couple of minutes ago I was telling you about this complex situation due to the COVID-19. Cellnex was able to even make it better in terms of, I mean, you provide us, to me, to many people, to kids, to workers, the ability to fight against this pandemic in such a different way than what happened in the Spanish flu in 1918. I mean, connectivity gives us the ability to keep on working, to keep on learning, to have the kids connected with their classes. And even in that situation, apart from doing that amazing effort from Cellnex and the whole team in Cellnex, of course, you've been growing. I mean, everyone is looking at the crisis, not the health one, the economical one, but Cellnex is still looking up and up and up, even in these moments.
Well, first of all, in this moment, I think the main merit is from our clients, the telco operators. The telco operators are the ones who have been delivering to the end user this connectivity, making sure that there is no loss of connection. So the big effort, I think, is on their side. Of course, we contributed a little bit because we are a part of it. It's the passive infrastructure. We need to make sure that we are able to continue doing maintenance, repairs, and everything. That has been a challenge, monitoring the whole network.
Under a lockdown.
Exactly, that has been a challenge, and but we are just a little piece of this, I would say, under the big sadness on how we see all that circumstances. But the telecom industry per se, I think, has gained a perception of an element that you would like to bring with you in this island when you are alone. So that would be on the ranking of things that you don't want to lose. Telecom services is something that it has, I think, increased in terms of perception to every citizen. No, we've been able to continue. Yes, we've continued doing M&A during let's say the lockdown period, which is difficult. But the opportunities are there, and we rapidly accommodate all the ecosystem also on the companies who want to envisage the possibility of selling their towers to enter into negotiations, discussions, and everything. So yes, we are happy enough, let's say, to be able to continue that activity.
Clearly, in crisis times, there is a moment for a lot of changes, and that means also a lot of opportunities. Unfortunately, some others have to keep on the side, but they come lots of opportunities. You described many of the ingredients. You didn't give us the recipe. I understand that you have to keep it.
It's like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, you keep it. Cellnex has its own recipe, which is successful and really, really amazing. But you've got amazing ingredients apart from the team, the passion, the way you transmit confidence to your investors, to the people around, to the telcos, to MNOs, to everyone. But the question is, okay, you did it great. Alex, congrats, you and the whole team. But what's next? What's for the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, what are your goals and challenges?
First of all, I think continue having that entrepreneurial spirit and the willingness of all the family within Cellnex to continue with this impetus, with this, let's say, energy, and in terms of continue, let's say, growing. No, but there is still a lot to do. When you look at this concept of mutualizing, generating efficiencies, assets in the telco world, which is suffering per se in terms of market, when you isolate that market, we believe there is a lot still on which Cellnex can contribute greatly, yeah? in terms of consolidating, in terms of providing similar services that we provide in certain countries, in other countries, and there are those two axes of potential growth, spreading into other geographies within Europe or enlarging a little bit our activity in other elements of the value chain, like those adjacent assets, fiber, and others that you mentioned.
Incredible. I would like to know, what would you tell to Colin and the whole team, of course, the whole Irish team, about the next steps? I mean, what's following, what's next for Ireland? Which are the following goals or challenges or next steps that you are planning all together?
Well, I think Colin knows it very well, because he is one of the thinkers around what we could do on the top of what we've been doing in Ireland. We believe that the Irish market still allows for better efficiencies to be created, better consolidation, and an increasing presence of Cellnex into the Irish market with whatever it brings together, no? Which is being able to provide more solutions and engage in other areas where maybe today we are just a pure supplier of a passive infrastructure, but going beyond that is one of our really targets for Ireland, especially on this coming year, 2021.
As we said, there are lots of ingredients, and part of them is the team. One of the most important, probably, it's the team. What message would you like to tell to all your team in Ireland right now?
Well, guys, continue as you've been doing as of now. From Cellnex, rest of the countries, we will try to help, endorse, learn, which is very important, from you guys, and let's continue doing as we did, because still there are a lot of things that we could do in Ireland.
Well, Alex Maestro, Deputy CEO, Business Deputy CEO at Cellnex, thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure. Next time, I hope we can meet in Ireland. Thank you very much, Colin, or maybe I should say Gora Magot. And over to you. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Gora Magot.
Thank you, Alex. We obviously appreciate those insights and also the kind words to myself and the team. And we do hope that we get the opportunity to see you here in Dublin in 2021. And we look forward to that. So look, this morning I'm also joined by two of my colleagues in Spain, Oscar and Esther. Good morning and welcome to Dublin virtually. I'm going to ask Oscar a question, maybe just to maybe start off this morning and give us an overview of the Cellnex portfolio today and the different types of sites that are in that in the business today across Europe.
Morning, Colin. Thank you very much. So a pleasure being here with this so qualified audience. So as Colin said, let's understand a bit more what is Cellnex managing across Europe. And when someone asks us about who's Cellnex, we used to answer with a number, which is 60,000 sites across 8 countries in Europe. So this is our main asset. And these are infrastructures where the commercial MNOs collocate their radio equipment for the commercial networks. This is mostly our business. And our business, it is about mutualizing, sharing those infrastructures just to make more efficient those investments to the MNOs. That's our principle. And as I already said, 60,000 sites, so it's quite critical mass of activity. So we are an industrial player. We manage those sites. We try to rationalize. We try to sell all the services on top of those assets. So this is mostly what Cellnex is. And of course, Ireland is a very, very interesting country where to extend that portfolio, as Alex said previously, because of the size of the country, because of the envisioning of the Irish team, and because at the end, we need this empowerment in any of our countries to test new things, serving our customers. But I mentioned about 60,000 sites, what a site is. And when we talk about site is an infrastructure that can be placed in a rural context. As you can see on the left side, this is a typical site. You can see 3 sets of antennas. So 3 MNOs are using this site. So it's a complete sharing approach, but not only on the rural side. Let's go on the left side, what it is the urban context. In this case, as you can see, obviously, this is Paris, and this is a rooftop. This is a different approach, as this is at the roofs of the buildings where we provide that connectivity. Of course, a city, it's a very dense place. So these are very, very demanded sites, and it's where most of the competitors get differentiated into the market. So we have the rural approach, just to cover wide areas cross-country. We have the urban, the most interesting and the most complicated to develop, to deploy also because of the permits, the deployment into so crowded places. But we have in the middle a new trend, which is the small cell. So the small cell is collocating a much smaller radio units on streetscape, on lamppost, on poles, very close to the skin of the city, serving the subscribers, the end users with those capacities and providing the data very close to where they are walking, shopping, whatever. So this is what a site is. This is what are we doing with these typologies, different typologies. And of course, this is a huge trend across Europe just to get more dense all Europe in terms of connectivity. So let's see, and maybe I will introduce Esther. Hi, morning, Esther.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. Pleasure being with you, Oscar. Good morning, Colin. Pleasure being with you and with you all. And before starting, Oscar, if you permit me, just to remind to the audience that you can post your questions on the chat button that appears somewhere in the bottom of your screens. Thank you.
Esther, I was asking, I've been talking about sites. We are managing these infrastructures, but we have much more services, solutions on top of those sites. You mind to introduce a wider view of our portfolio?
Yes, absolutely, Oscar. Well, indeed, we have the site and the tower as the core asset in our business, and we diversify on top of this. And we diversify by listening to our clients, as Alex was mentioning before, by listening to the market and trying to envisage together with them how the future will be. And then what is the market saying to us? What are the trends that we consider when diversifying? First, very important, 5G. 5G means more radio. 5G means fiber everywhere. 5G means edge connectivity and virtualization. Four very important things.
So 5G is the hot topic.
5G is the hot topic,
okay.
Yes, as all of you are aware of. New radio, new frequencies, new frequency bands to allow densifying, to allow the operators to bring more bandwidth and more connectivity when there is not enough. So densification is distributed antenna systems, DAS, and small cells. First line in our portfolio, DAS and small cells. Secondly, fiber from everywhere to everywhere to avoid capacity bottlenecks when huge amounts of data have to travel. Edge connectivity. Edge connectivity means bringing the processing capacity to the edge of the networks. This is data centers, another line in our portfolio.
Smaller data centers,
smaller,
the typical
yes,
ones.
Exactly. Smaller because they are at the edge. 5G, the very, very hot topic. Then other things that the market requires. Public safety, business continuity, business critical. So this is mission critical and private networks. Another of our main lines in the portfolio.
So these are
Cellnex.
dedicated networks to specific purposes.
Exactly.
For public safety, for enterprise, and so on.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Exactly. And then another, I will mention just three of the main trends in the market, and the third one is, and it's now more important because of this pandemic moment that we are living, because of this COVID-19 situation. Automated processes, remote asset access, remote asset control, track and trace solutions, smart cities. This is IoT, Internet of Things, and this is smart, another product line in our portfolio. An important one. We have 4 million of things connected to our networks. We manage 2 networks in Spain and Portugal, Sigfox technology. And thanks to the agreement that we recently closed with Everynet, we will soon operate and manage LoRa networks in Italy, in the UK, and in Ireland. Colin, how is this deal and this initiative perceived from the market in Ireland?
Yeah, no, Oscar, Esther, there's been a very positive reaction, in fact, because many of the people that we've been in contact with in the last few weeks have been, I suppose, testing and looking at ways to roll out the applications, and now they see this as an opportunity. There's another platform there for these devices to be connected. But I think some of the realization as well that what Cellnex is bringing to the table is the whole area of the smart brain. It's not just the network. There's a number of components, I think, that are being brought to the table here as part of the Everynet agreement. And I think that's really useful. And I think Ireland has a really good ecosystem it's well renowned for its entrepreneurialism and innovation. And we have a lot of companies here that are being funded by Enterprise Ireland, which is a state fund to develop startups. And what we believe is we're going to see a lot of companies now looking to trial their applications. And I think what Alex mentioned there is this, across the 8 countries now, we have the ecosystem. We're already seeing ourselves, we're getting the information from other markets, from other Cellnex markets, where we're getting to use applications that have been deployed. These are not applications that we're testing in Ireland. These are applications that are live. So I think it's really, really interesting. And maybe Oscar, you could share with us some of the experiences around the IoT in the other markets.
Yes, we will do. We have a specific chapter to cover this IoT. So, but let me, Colin, if you don't mind, let me continue with densification approach, and then I will go through IoT because it's really interesting and very useful to the Irish market. But let's go back to Esther's point on the new radio, the densification. What does it mean exactly? This is, up to now, we have provide connectivity coverage from what we say a macro antenna. And it is a kind of watering by flooding. That means that you have an emitting antenna, and everyone around a range of 1-2 kilometers get the signal from that antenna. Things are changing, and you need another layer, a complementary layer. It is a kind of watering by leaving drops of water in the specific places where you want that connectivity or capacity. And this approach to deploy a kind of second radio network, complementary to the first one, with very specific locations, close where the people is, that's the densification. And this is one of the things which are being really interesting in a very, very dense, crowded venues. In the meanwhile, with the COVID-19 on our context, it seems like a contradiction, because everybody is asking us to keep, let's say, isolated, not to go in a densified zones, but this hopefully will happen, and we will be again back to the normality. And into that context, we would like to have high bandwidth in a stadia when Messi is scoring, or we want to be in a shopping mall sending pictures if I need to buy this jacket or not to my girlfriend. So I have many experiences when I am in a crowded places that I would like nice bandwidth to share the many contents. And this is densification. Related to your point, Colin, on the IoT, when we design dense networks for IoT, the number that we try to respect always, it is about 1 million connected things by square kilometer. So that means that every square of 1 kilometer site, you can manage 1 million connections into those networks. Imagine how many or what a such amount of data has to be transmitted, and also linked to what Esther said on the bottlenecks. But let's understand a little bit more about this densification. And Esther, can you introduce us specific venues, contexts where we are densifying with this radio deployment?
Yes, absolutely. As you mentioned, there are some venues that are, let's say, the king venue for densification, as there is a lot of traffic and there is a lot of interest from everybody to have a good connectivity there. We at Cellnex have deployed DAS and small cell systems in stadia. The Wanda Metropolitano Stadium for Atlético de Madrid in Spain, Olimpico di Roma, San Siro, Milano, La Juve.
So the top stadia in Europe.
Top stadia, Manchester City.
Wow.
In the UK. So yes, these are flagship venues. Why? Because these venues are natural content hubs. As you were mentioning, a lot of videos, a lot of photos, a lot of information to be transmitted to friends and people that is at home. So very attractive for us. I mean everybody, to have a good coverage there. Also, city centers. We have deployed the small cells in the city centers of Barcelona. We have deployed the small cells in the city center of Milano. 300 small cells.
Milano is our strongest reference in that sense?
Yes, yes. In terms of small cell outdoor deployment, yeah, Milano is one of our flagship deployments. Oscar, we have more than 3,000 nodes connected, which means more than
Across
80
Europe.
locations installed with a DAS or small cell system from
that
Cellnex.
means that because of our neutral host model, all the commercial MNOs are using those nodes to get the connectivity to their final subscribers.
Exactly, or
That's
if not
interesting.
all, at least this is our aim, or this will be the desirable thing. And look, this is doesn't small cell deployment, but means because of the huge amount of data that we have to transmit, means bringing the fiber connectivity there. Means also controlling somehow how things are progressing, maybe some sensors, IoT deployments. And at the end means controlling the whole system. So means bringing a data center or some kind of data room in order to process and control the whole systems. So, and in this, Oscar, maybe we can give to the audience some flavor about this this trend on the data room, because the amount of the system.
Just let me ask you before to Colin. Colin, how much densified is Ireland in the sense of this definition that we share with you?
Yeah, I think we obviously don't have all that many stadiums in Ireland, but there are a few, and there are already DAS systems installed in them. I think it's an area that we're obviously exploring. We do feel that there is a market there for us to play a role. I think, you know, the area around the small cells, the densification in the cities, for sure, that's an area that we will participate. I think we have the capability for sure in terms of our process, our industrial approach to how we deliver infrastructure. We do have that understood. And I also think we've a lot of the relationships established with the key parties. I think, you know, the councils themselves will play a key role in helping the densification around the cities. But in relation to the DAS, there will be opportunity there. I think we see it a lot in the office buildings, where a lot of new office buildings have been built in Dublin in the last while. But right now, as you said, I mean, the densification is in the home, because the families, everybody's at home, and the people in Dublin that are working in Dublin, a lot of people live outside the city. So now the networks, early in March and April this year, there was a lot of pressure on the networks in those areas. So, you know, I think I do think that will be sustained. There will be a level of that sustained, and you know, I think when things get back to normality in 2021, for sure, there's going to be opportunity there.
Okay, so maybe back to your point, Esther, that you were asking about data centers. Okay, we've said, imagine let's say the idea that we are in a stadia, we are consuming real time, real context content, sitting in the meanwhile, I'm watching the match. So where is this data processed? If this data is processed somewhere else in another continent, let's say, I need to cross with a subsea cable to the other continent, back for the network, and finally to get consumed. So a huge latency, very expensive cost, backhauling, transporting all of this signal, and much less bandwidth. Imagine that data is processed almost nearby the stadium. That's the concept. So although up to now, we've done an architecture related to data processing that we have centralized in hyperscale data centers, many few serving almost worldwide, now the trend is changing. It's making a kind of distribution architecture. So we have regional data centers, even local data centers, even cell tower data centers. So when we are at the edge of this radio network, this is purely what we consider as the edge computing. So imagine a company like us, that we have these 60,000 sites, potentially, how many disseminated data centers we can provide to our customers. And this is when you have, if you have son, children, when they are e-gaming, they are lagging many times. Mm-hmm. So if they were let's say, using any of these edge computing, they would be real time with no delays if they are playing against someone in the same city, for instance. So that's the principle of this edge computing. What we've done in Cellnex, for instance, as you can see on the image, this is a high tower in Netherlands. This is a tower used for broadcasting and MNOs purposes, but we have set any of the circular floors of this tower, as this is a high tower, a very specific data center module, which is replicable depending on the customer demand. And this is the first trial, the first test, very successfully. And hopefully we are willing to extend that practice. And maybe not only to the MNOs, which are our main customers, but also to other service providers that they are using the MNOs network to reach the end users. So this is another example.
So 60,000 potential data centers where we can take profit of our expertise when maintaining these, because all of these centers are already connected to a NOC, to a network operation center, because they are already under our maintenance and schedules.
We have security access, cooling. So we have all the, let's say, attributes needed to provide perfectly this service. So it's an opportunity. That's part of this movement on the value chain that Alex was mentioning at the end of his speech. And then, Colin, sorry for that, but now I'm back to your first question on the IoT. Okay, so let's focus a little bit more on the IoT. We have this very nice news with EveryNet in Ireland. We have this experience that Esther mentioned in Spain, in Portugal with IoT. But first, and sorry for that, I would like to go to the foundations of the IoT, because I think it's important to understand those foundations before starting an IoT project. If you look at the slide, you can see that this is the IoT value chain. So we have the sensor. The sensor depends on what data I'm willing to manage. So the first big question is, what is the data I'm willing to have in my business logics? And that's crucial. That's the first question, because depending on that data, I will decide for one sensor or another. The sensor industry is quite robust on, let's say, the physical magnitude sensors: temperature, presence, magnetic field, counting, open, closed doors. All this is, let's say, very robust. But what about microbiological sensors? What about chemical sensors? What if before entering into a meeting room, my handset tells me, do not come in, Oscar, because there's a flu virus, so you will be in bed in 3 days? That would be incredible. So, and now that we are in this COVID time, imagine that we could have this kind of, so this is a brand new trend. Many industries investing on this kind of sensors. But okay, I have the sensors, I have the connectivity, different kind of solutions, Sigfox, LoRa, Narrowband IoT, some other proprietary. But in any case, any use case has a specific connectivity as the best one. So these connectivities are not competing. Each one supports specific use cases. Then I get the data. I need to make the business logics processing. And finally, what is the most important is that IoT is a call to action. When I receive a data, if I do nothing, has no sense. So I need to process that data and maybe to mobilize a team, a field force team, to go to the customer and to repair something or to actuate. That's the point. So the big complexity on IoT, it is that normally it generates the wow effect. So the first time you are facing an IoT approach to an industry, they say, really? Can I get that data in 2 seconds in my data platform? Yes, you can. Show me. And then that data is there. Wow, that's incredible. But if you just keep there and do not go beyond that, which is integrated that data in your business processes, you will do nothing. And that's why many companies are just trying some dozens, even hundreds of sensors, but they are not scaling up to thousands, even millions. And that's the point, because when you have a good a product and you make this IoT pressure, digital pressure on it, this normally mutates, changes to a service. And it's not the same selling a product that delivering a service. So cities with the smart city programs are being, let's say, trained about how to manage the city based on that data, real-time data. Services that were scheduled, forecasted, now are served according to the momentum, more adaptive. So it's more listening what the city is happening and then actuating, for instance, as an example. So related to that, I think would be nice to understand, Esther, what is our best smart city reference at Cellnex and why it is that way?
Well, maybe this is something natural. Our best reference in this sense is in Barcelona. This processing capacity that you were mentioning in this step of the value chain, that is the Smart Brain. We have a platform to do this, and it's the Smart Brain platform. This platform is running and operating in Barcelona. We are the technical partner for the Barcelona City Council to manage IoT and smart deployments in the city. We have sensors for parking purposes connected to our Smart Brain platform. Waste management throughout the city connected to our Smart Brain platform. Environmental sensors connected to our Smart Brain platform. So all the things that we do in Barcelona and all the data that is collected is processed through our Smart Brain platform, and then we revert this data to the municipality for them to predict, for them to better manage the city. So Barcelona is our flagship.
And these sensors are using this Sigfox network?
Yes, yes, because in Spain we manage a network that is based on Sigfox technology, which does not mean that we only manage Sigfox network. We, as a neutral operator, we are technological agnostic. Mm-hmm. So in Spain and Portugal, the network is Sigfox. In Italy, UK, Ireland,
will be
LoRa networks. And yes, smart cities is one of the huge trends within all the IoT and smart world. And we foresee that other cities will follow Barcelona. At least we hope so. And I think that Dublin is a good example. Last week, we celebrated a seminar to talk about or to discuss, debate with some expert people around smart and IoT. And we invited the program management for the smart cities in the City Council of Dublin. So Colin, hopefully Dublin can follow Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting to get this insight, and I'm sure the audience appreciates the insight we're providing here, because it also sounds like we're going to be very busy over the next while trying to get all of this connectivity rolled out as well. But I think the reaction is very good. I mean, there are a number of initiatives have been worked on for a while now. I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of the ecosystem is set up. There's been a lot of investigation done, and I think having the infrastructure rolled out in terms of an IoT network provides another opportunity to allow these applications now to get deployed. And I think I think the Smart Brain that you're presenting, the fact that it's a neutral host, it doesn't matter whether it's Sigfox, it doesn't matter whether it's a LoRa network. The fact that any sensor, any IoT sensor can be put into the Smart Brain and presented in the way it is, that to me is a very unique insight as well. And like I said, I think the real value here is what we're certainly seeing is being part of the Cellnex group now is getting all of the insights from the other markets, and I think there's a value there. Dublin will obviously get a value from that as well, and we have a lot of work to do in order to make sure that happens. And I think the participants in the various sessions we've had so far you know, they really appreciate that. They really appreciate this insight into what Cellnex is doing in the other markets. So we really appreciate that, that Esther. And maybe Oscar, you mentioned a few of the use cases there. I know we're now at the moment actually live. We have some sensors live in our network in Ireland that we've launched. The Environmental Protection Agency are measuring the air quality. We're starting to do some sensors in the parking, and then we're looking at the bins as well in terms of measuring the fulfillment. Is there other use cases you want to mention?
I think there are so many use cases as our imagination. So, I mean, every time we face an industry, a context, we realize that there are very interesting things potentially to be managed with IoT. So let me go through some of them that we have already nice expertise in at Cellnex. So the first consideration is when we talk about these use cases, we are thinking about LPWA networks. That means low power wide area. That means that you place a sensor and the battery of this sensor can remain active even for 6 to 8, even sometimes 10 years. So imagine that with no interaction during 10 years, you get a data every 15 minutes or every hour about the humidity, about the air quality, about if someone is walking around or not. Examples about that, and these are quite clear. Metering, as you can see on this map with the blue zones. This is a water metering in Spain, where we are processing how much water going through pipes for the end users, but also for the distribution pipes of the utility company. So they can improve water leakage, they can avoid fraud, people manipulating waters sometime, and they can even communicate to the end users, to the customers, what is the consumption level. Even to arise an alarm if something strange are happening because there's a leakage, whatever. This is one example. Another example, for instance, with LoRa or Sigfox, tracking. You can track a logistic pallet, you can track a logistic container with quite precise resolution anywhere across Europe. So if you are a logistic company, you can know perfectly where this container is located. If this is still in the ship, if it's been already in the harbor, or it's going with a platooning through a highway from Spain to, I don't know, to France, to Paris, for instance. So this tracking, and of course, it's always a balance. How much resolution I want for this tracking? I want to get 1 meter resolution. I want to get 10 meter resolution. This is a balance. You can use a GPS on board. You can use just making triangle with the Sigfox, let's say, remote units, and to get the position. So this is always a balance. But not only in Barcelona, we have a very nice experience with social housing. Social housing means monitoring the quality of the housing for the social entities providing home to poor people, and we can get everything about that. So they can have a minimum quality of life guaranteed, like temperature in the living room in the middle of the winter, humidity, any other kind of these measures. So this is the kind of verticals, already deployed solutions on a silo approach for any of these industries that potentially could be easily exported to Ireland and any other country. So, Colin, we will be happy to share with our experts at corporation, to have the discussions with the Irish stakeholders, and of course to start testing. Because as I said, first the wow effect, and then when you realize the value of this, you will scale for sure, as this is happening all over the world. So yes, we will be very active in that sense.
Absolutely, yeah. We're very much looking forward to bring our expertise to Ireland, the same that having the expertise that you have as well, guys, in order to cross-fertilize the activity. And we are as well very much looking forward to start interacting with the audience and the people that is attending the first anniversary of Cellnex in Ireland. We will be happily answering your questions on the chat. Maybe before starting this debate with the audience that I hope that is interesting. Thanks, thank you, Oliver, for your supportive words to us. I'm very happy that you join us today and hope that you are enjoying. So first question we have from the audience, that is maybe something that Colin, you will be answering better than Oscar and myself, is around which are the services in Cellnex portfolio that you foresee as leveraging the business in Ireland in the coming years.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting because this morning actually we announced, you know, we've delivered 100 new sites in Ireland this year, which is part of our commitment. It's part of what we were doing anyway in the last while. But we also announced the commencement of our delivery of fiber infrastructure and then connecting our towers. And you know, we've done this now with an agreement we have with the Irish Forestry. So 50% of our portfolio today is on the Irish Forestry land. And we now have a process agreed, and we have a whole strategy about bringing the fiber infrastructure from the towers down to the public road. So we started now to go beyond the tower infrastructure and make sure that our sites are available to be connected with fiber. So that's a big step. That's a first move away from what we were traditionally focused on. I think the announcement 2 weeks ago in terms of the partnership with Everynet, obviously that's something that's going to be a focus. And we do think that the emerging densification requirements around the small cells and that type of deployment, we certainly believe that we have the skill set in Ireland and the process and the know-how. And I do believe that we have the trust from our customers as well that we can deliver in that context, because you know, we've shown that in the past that we have the ability to try new things, you know, to challenge the conventional way of doing things. And I think that's constantly something that you have to keep going when you're involved in this type of business. You know, the innovation, the creativity, and it creates a little bit of excitement as well sometimes, because when you figure out how to do something differently and more efficiently, obviously you can get excited about that. So I do think we're in a good place. We have the trust of our customers, and we have the insights that we're learning here this morning. We have the access to that insight now across the different Cellnex companies in Europe. And I think that's a huge factor that will help us here in Ireland. And like Alex said, hopefully we can take some of what we're doing here and share that back into the Cellnex group as well. So,
thank you, Colin. Oscar, indeed, innovation. We have not been through this, but innovation is one of the pillars of our activity, and we have a huge team devoted to this, to bring all these capabilities to the tower of the future, as Colin was mentioning, and some others that we have just smoothly touched, as virtualization, but we will be there in the coming years. I hope. No more questions on the chat. No more questions from our remote channel.
In the meanwhile, if we wait for some extra questions, let me go through this innovation point, because of course, innovation team, it's really relevant. We are in a technological world, and you know that there are many technologies that they don't know yet the challenge these technologies will address. So only taking into account into our radar these technologies, if these may be useful to our business, this is a huge work that we are making in the innovation. Once we have this work done, how do we start predefining potential services, how we move in these new spaces in the value chain, and finally, how we test those solutions pre-commercially with any of our customers. This is a process which is very well established. And of course, we are running all time different initiatives in parallel with any of the countries, and we would like also to run some of them in Ireland too, because at the end we want a fully distributed innovation model anywhere.
Thank you, Oscar. We have a question on the chat from Keelan Delaney. Hope I have pronounced properly your name. Thank you very much for posing a question on the chat. And this question is related to street poles. As Colin was highlighting, this is one of the elements that will be important in the future of Cellnex Ireland. And basically what Keelan is asking us is, how does this work in other countries, and how other markets manage this street pole solution developing? We can give you some experience from our expertise in Spain and our expertise in the UK, where streetscape, as Oscar was mentioning at the very beginning, is part of the sites of the future. We are placing telecom equipment on street furniture. This is happening in almost all geographies where we are present, so same trend everywhere. And what is important in this case is the regulatory part of the whole thing. So this is, let's say, the challenge that we are facing when deploying solutions on street poles. Permissions, more if you are, for example, in a historical city center, partnering as well with electrical companies. So the logistics and the regulation around this is the main challenge. But once this is solved, and this is usually a step that we accomplish successfully, when this is solved, then street poles are used.
I would say, Esther, couple of things. First, at European level, the Electronic Communication Code, it's trying to establish same context, regulatory context for any of the countries, and that was issued last year, and now it's being reviewed by all the state members, so that's going to be helpful in that sense. But secondly, this is spread by cities, and every city has also its local approach. So absolutely. A model that could work, for instance, in Dublin, maybe it doesn't work in Barcelona, or maybe it doesn't work in Paris, wherever. Our experience, it is that first, the public entities, the local entities are willing also to get a return from those poles. So there is a ground lease or a pole lease that needs to be agreed, and that, of course, has to be very competitive in terms of price to make this attractive to the MNOs. So one of the big things is how to bundle not only the access to the pole, but also the backhauling fiber and also the maintenance. So remember that this is normally a pole, a lamppost in the middle of the street. So any operation and maintenance needs closing the street sometimes, making the works, and back the traffic goes. So it's not easy. It's not easy. The demand, honestly, in Europe is still slow, is still low demand comparing to Asian states. We expect a growing, but remember that the level of data consumption in Europe, it's been still very well supported for 4G deployments. So this is something that will come in the upcoming years. There is, from our experience, very, let's say, mature countries like Italy on this deployment at street level, as you mentioned with Milano. In Barcelona, we are managing all the streetscape for the Barcelona city as a neutral host player, but still the demand is very, very low. And I would say that where there's more densification fever, it is, from our opinion, in UK, where they are being very aggressive, mostly indoor coverage, more than outdoor. So we are using other kind of supports. And then, again, not only streetscape, there are other players into that market. Advertising companies that they have bus shelters, they have digital signage, all these new elements, facades, all these came into this party as a new players that we need to deal with and to cooperate with too.
So thank you. I think we're just out of time. Esther and Oscar, really appreciate your time this morning and for joining us in Dublin. we obviously wanted to do this in person, and perhaps maybe next year we'll have the opportunity to do that. I do think that, what we've heard this morning, I know it will be appreciated by our attendees. So really, really thank you for that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Colin. As there are very, very last minute questions on the chat, and I know that we are already out of time, what we will do is we will respond to those questions for the audience after the panel. So we will send written answers to these questions, because everything is for us is interesting for us to discuss with you.
Yes. So as we said at the start of the session, we now want to make an announcement that we have 50,000 euros that we're presenting today to the two Irish charities, 25,000 each, and we're just going to take a moment to watch two short videos of these two charities.
I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Colin and the team at Cellnex for their incredible support over the last couple of years with Cancer Fund for Children as their charity partner. We just want to wish you congratulations for your first year anniversary.
I would like to introduce you to an incredible family who we've been able to support. Emer, Cameron and little Clodagh. Clodagh was diagnosed with cancer when she was a baby. They will tell you a little more about their story and how they have benefited from support from Cancer Fund for Children.
Clodagh had an eye infection. She'd been a perfectly healthy 16-month-old, and she came home one day quite bruised from creche, which was kind of normal because kids bruise, but she seemed to have a really droopy eye. And she basically practically fell asleep at the dinner table. So that was a Thursday evening. On Friday we went to the doctor and the GP gave us some antibiotics. After a week on antibiotics, that there had been no change. So he asked us did we want to go to Temple Street or our local hospital in Drogheda. So we decided we'd go to Drogheda, thinking, we'd be home for dinner. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, she was diagnosed and confirmed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is one of the two types of leukemia.
It was basically like being hit by a truck. When they told us in Drogheda, they took us into a room that was probably 3 meters by 1 meter, and there was 5 people standing around, and we realized that it wasn't going to be good news.
Daisy Lodge is just, for us, it's kind of like heaven. It's a 7-star hotel, yet you feel at home, and yet you feel quite normal because all the other people staying there have to be, there's an infection control, so they have to be very healthy. Statistics say that only 1 in 7 families get to come to Daisy Lodge, and if we could have one in Mayo and offer it to way more people, sure, it just means more families would benefit. It's a very special place.
Hi, my name is Mark Brennan. I'm the project leader here with Bernardo's in Millbrook and Tala. I'd like you to welcome you to our service. Here in Millbrook, we provide early years and family support services to vulnerable children and families. This year has been particularly hard for children and families because of the initial phases of the Covid-19 pandemic.
Our early years centres help children learn and develop and become school ready. Thank you so much for your generosity. You have helped children go to school with smiles on their faces, ready to get all they can for the school day. Thank you so much again.
Hello, my name is Mary Gamble and I'm the Director of Fundraising here at Barnardo's. I wanted to say a really quick thank you so much to everybody at Cellnex for their support for the children and families that we work with each year. We are so grateful for your generosity and kindness. And I'd also like to say a massive congratulations to you all on the anniversary of your first year in business here in Ireland. Thank you so much for everything you've done for Barnardo's.
So thank you. So that's it for today. Again, I want to thank everybody for their attendance. Really appreciate you joining us this morning. We look forward, obviously, to next year. Hopefully, we can be all together. For now, it's the usual saying: it's to stay at home and stay safe. And thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.